everybody. Welcome. This is Kenny, and this is Chris, and behind the microphone over there is Bryce, and this is the American Car Class Radio program. Hey, are you ready for an exciting hour? Because we've got a special guest coming up after this. First of all, I want to start off and say it's not winter in Florida anymore. It's warm. We're outside. We're running around. But right now, you're in front of your monitor, your phone, your computer. You're watching us. Since you've got us turned on, look down your keyboard real quick. Do me a quick little favor. Click that like button. Maybe go over to comment and hit the keyboard and jot a little something down and say, Kenny, I don't like the way you, or Kenny, I love the way you, or hey, can't Chris talk too? So do that for us, because we're just a local little podcast trying to make a difference in the world.
Yep. We're close to 5,000 subscribers. It's a huge milestone, huge milestone. It's all thanks to you guys. We've got a lot of changes for 2025.
Yeah.
We've got a lot in store for 2025. This week. Today's Thursday, the 7th. So 7 days from now.
Well, 2 days from now, we're going to be.
We got that too. See, we have so much going on. Stick around, watch the end. We got Matt Avery coming up today. That's right. So that's going to be here in a minute. So don't go to where Matt Avery from Mecum Auctions. We're talking about Kissimmee. We're talking about Vegas. But then on
hold on
Saturday,
for Vegas. Vegas was a motorcycle auction, so think this is classic cars.
Yeah.
Hold your seat for a motorcycle auction. Some news that would blow you away about some special stuff out of Vegas. Saturday, we're going to be, Chris and I are going to be representing the American Car Classics Radio podcast program at Mecum Park in Melbourne for the Mopars of Brevard car show. We get to pick a class, we get to award a winner, and we get to go out there and shake some babies and kiss some hands like we always do.
Come out and say hi if you're local.
Yeah. This is going to be Mecum Park Saturday the 8th, and this is for the Mopars of Brevard show. Google it, Brevard County Car Shows. You'll find it right there.
And then after that, on Thursday.
Yeah. Thursday, the 13th of February. It's a big day. And we're proud to say that we're going to be doing our first live podcast, really officially. Bryce, we did a live one once or two, but we're going to Ford's Garage. I want to shout out the
Ford's Garage, the restaurant.
Yeah, Ford's Garage, the restaurant.
Not a dealership.
No, it's a restaurant. 6 states now. Newest one is in Virginia. 23 restaurants here in Florida. I do believe, Tony would correct me if he was here. Tony is the manager of the Ford's Garage in Viera, Florida. That is 5480 Lake Andrew Drive in Melbourne. And from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., at Ford's Garage Restaurant, we're going to be doing a podcast, and we're going to include Tony, who is the general manager. He's going to come on and talk about some inception concepts that have been going on with Ford's Garage. We're going to talk to some of his staff about... we're
going to eat some good food.
Yeah, about the food that they serve. And
we're going to have some beverages.
We're going to have a couple of... Brian, we might have a drink or two, right? So, but that will help loosen us up, because up here I'm always stiff and I don't know what to say or how to act.
I'm new to this whole internet broadcasting, podcasting. This is the first time I've ever done it, and I've been doing it, 6 months now?
Yeah.
So,
really?
Yeah. So,
wow. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So here,
my first live event.
Yeah. Well, we're going to put this out on social media, Facebook, Instagram. So if you'd like to come out and watch us, it's completely free. The food is incredible, but you get to be a part of the show, interact with us. We're going to do some tech talk questions, crowd-pleasing tech talk, see if we get some answers, throw some swag that way. We hope it's just going to be a bang-on event. I think that it's going to serve a purpose for Ford's Garage to get some stuff out there, but for us to put our platform out there that we are mobile and we can do just about anything, anywhere. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Before we get Matt on from Mecum, Bryce was at Daytona for the Rolex 24, right? Was it or 24 Hours of Daytona?
No,
that's what it was.
It was a Rolex.
Yeah, it was the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona,
that's right.
the sports car race. It's been going on for over 60 years.
How was it?
At this point, it's an amazing event. It's my second time, and
was this better than last time?
Oh, I don't know if it was better.
Was the Miata? There was a Miata race, the crash on the opening lap.
Yeah, that was on the previous day. We just went for the big race. I didn't want to take time off during the week, so we just went for Saturday and Sunday. But it was great. I'll get Chris over some pictures and video that I took. There was a great Corvette corral, and the battle between the Mustangs and the Corvettes was hot, and that went all the way through 24 hours of racing. At the very end,
who won the battle?
Ford ultimately won. And
killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
And that was interesting because the Mustang was not competitive last year. and they made changes.
Well, you heard about
in
the Ford
off-season.
CEO. The Ford CEO said if they don't start upping their game and quality and everything around the board, then they're going to start firing and laying people off.
Hooah!
Oh yeah, he pulled no punches. He's like, that's enough of this. I'm tired of leading the league in recalls every year and putting out crap.
Good. Somebody's got to step up and be tired they're putting out crap. It's such a hard thing anymore.
Pay dividends in the race team, I guess.
Hopefully they drop the Chevy Volt and just move on with these ice engines and everything else that people just really love when they rev them up. They put something in your heart that just makes you feel special.
Of a room.
Right. Also with Ford's Garage, they're going to be doing a car show. I guess the 13th, 14th, 15th. That's the 15th. Is that it's going to be?
I'll tell you.
Good. Do that. It's from 8 a.m. to 10:30 in the morning, and this is out on.
It's the 23rd of February.
23rd of February, right?
Yes.
So 10 days after our podcast.
Yep.
This is an 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. because they open for brunch at 10:30. And man, one of the things I'm going to tell you that Tony's going to talk about, he's going to talk about happy hour. And that makes me happy because happy hour is a great thing.
We're not going to spoil it for you.
Yeah. I'm not going to.
We're going to let Tony. But yeah. So come out if you're going to be around and you have a cool car or you just like looking at cool cars, come out on the 23rd to Ford's Garage in Vieira. Check out some cool cars. And then after that's over, then you get brunch. You're already there at the restaurant.
That's right. You're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are not sponsored by Ford's Garage because we're going to get a lot of that. Oh, look, these guys are sponsored by Ford. We're not sponsored by Ford's Garage.
No, look.
Not yet.
No, look. It's my idea. This is my idea to want to get out into the public. I look for places where we can be seen and grow.
We want to meet you guys.
Yeah, on the internet's big and everything else, but there's a local thing that Chris and I and Bryce do. And we live here and we work here and we play here and we eat here and we go to car shows here and we know a lot of local people here. So for them to know that we're in their backyard and doing this, I think it's essential. Even though we're a nationwide company putting it out on the web, it's important that we get to our local constituents and sit here and have a good time with them as well. And I think that there's no better place that we could ask to do than a restaurant that is tied to the automotive industry.
You gotta tune in.
Yeah, I guess
we got
this is
a really good
teaser.
time.
Is that a teaser?
Yeah, stories from the garage.
Yeah. Oh, and he went there. Whoever knows that, maybe you'll comment on something and there might be something headed your way, a mug or something, whatever. So we will get ready to put Matt on here. Matt Avery from Mecum Auctions. Hey, everybody. Welcome. This is another edition. You are tuned into the right place. Don't change. This is the American Car Classics radio program. I'm Kenny Schofield. This is Chris Couch. Sharing the screen with us today, Matt Avery, Mecum Auctions. Matt, how you doing today, brother?
Hey, guys. I'm doing well. Always a pleasure to join you here on the American Car Classics radio, man. Let's talk some cars.
Yeah, let's just jump right into it. We can talk that you're in an airport, you're getting ready to catch a plane, you're heading down to Florida, but you just got back from Vegas. We just got done seeing you in Kissimmee for the kickoff, the fiscal kickoff of Mecum's year. Let's talk real quick about Kissimmee, Matt. Tell us.
Yeah, guys, man, what a way to ring in the new year. This event just keeps getting bigger and better, and the entire team worked really hard, and we're so proud of the fact that this year marked 4 years straight of more than $200 million in sales. I mean, what an achievement, what an event. So many cars, thousands of cars across the block. And it's a great way, man, to kick off January. I'm excited for what's in store for the next couple of months as we move further into 2025.
Did I hear that right? 200 million in sales?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 200 million. And to put a fine point on it, this year was 226 million in overall sales. And again, this is our fourth year of eclipsing that $200 million mark. Just some incredible high sellers, guys. I'm sure you had a chance to be on site and take in some of just the high caliber vehicles. Man, the bar keeps getting raised.
Yeah, we did see some pretty high caliber.
We scoured the field a lot, and there's so much to see, Matt. It's endless. It's endless that the spectator gets to come in and he thinks he's going to a car event, but it is a circus. Mecum they bring in this traveling circus. The family is so tight and so on key with everything they do. But Chris's first time to Mecum Auctions, he was blown around, walking around just in awe, jaw on the floor, drool hanging out. He wrote down, he's a logistics guy, so he wrote down tons of cars, tons of lot numbers. We went in, we watched across the block, and Matt, we are always blown away by I don't know how to say it. There's such a wide variety of cars. There's a seat for every butt and a butt for every seat. But it is amazing to us, Chris. I mean, we were just blown away that some cars go for money that we don't understand how that happens. And then some go it's like there must have been something that we're missing because we don't get it. It was so exciting.
Well, for a good example is the DeLoreans, right? I mean, 2 of them sold for around 50 or didn't sell for 50, and another one sold for 110. So I just don't know why that delta on some of those models like that.
Yeah, it's cool, but we know that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's a good point. Go ahead, Kenny.
No, you, Matt.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. You touched on a couple observations there about the overall experience. Speaking to the diversity of vehicles, collector cars, that phrase keeps expanding, guys, and it's so exciting. For car enthusiasts like us to realize that with each passing year, we're seeing different vehicles enter the collector space as we get different collectors entering the space. Younger generations who are saying, hey, we want to play with these cars and trucks too, but we want to go after different cars from our youth. So, these forever classics of the 50s and the muscle cars of the 60s and 70s, these are now being joined by other cars that people find exciting and desirable. And so that's why the auction just kind of keeps getting a richer experience. And people are like, man, I haven't seen some of these cars, because interests are expanding to accommodate for that. So that's exciting. The other point that was brought up that you guys mentioned was the difference in price. That's just really that's the nature of the auction experience, is that, here at Mecum, we provide an opportunity to connect buyers and sellers, and what plays out is what plays out, and you never know the reason why stuff goes for very high prices or why it's very attainable prices. You just don't know. All we do is provide the high class forum to get those people together and then see what happens.
Yeah, when cars go across no reserve, it's not even our car, and we're just chomping on our fingernails down to the nub, because I mean, cars could have 100,000 resto build into it, and then the hammer's going to go at 30. And how does a person? I think about the 80s stock market where people are jumping out of windows. I mean, how do you not do it? It's got to, I mean, you're really gambling. You're Vegas gambling. I mean, it's just
I got my Vegas shirt today.
It's kind of crazy. So, yeah.
Well, and there, you can come into the auction experience on different levels. You can run a vehicle at no reserve, and people have a lot of reasons for wanting to do that. I'm saying there's a lot of thought that goes into it, of course.
Yes.
And then at Mecum, we also allow people to add a reserve if you're not sure about the market, or if you have an expectation of where you want that vehicle to sell. And then as you guys are well aware, that on site at the auction, you have the option to drop the reserve. Maybe you're close.
Yeah.
And then also our Bid Goes On is a wonderful service where we get a lot of sales after the excitement doesn't stop when the car does not meet its reserve on the auction block. We have a dedicated team of consignment agents that are working diligently throughout the course of the auction, and even after in some cases, to get the vehicle sold. And so it's just one of those where, there's a lot of different strategies that go into it. And of course, anyone who's interested, if you reach out to our team, to our consignment team, they can walk you through and help you develop a strategy that works best.
Yeah, I think the no reserve feature really lets a buyer know, I could go home with this car. It's worth me trying to buy it. As where with the no reserve, a lot of people hold off until the end to see if it's even going to get there. When the reserve goes off, this is when other chairs pounce in and say, okay, I'm a buyer, because they almost don't want to waste their time with something they don't know if they can take home.
Well, and the no reserve, I think, entices people to even get a bidder's pass. Look at me. I almost got a bidder's pass while I was there, because there was a 68 Ford that was the same as my grandpa's, and I was like, man, I might go get a bidder's pass and bid on this, because it was no reserve. It was so enticing. I was like, man, I could really get this for a steal,
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, is that as a seller decides to go no reserve, it does send a message to potential customers, because when we start marketing that vehicle weeks or in some cases months in advance, that, hey, this car is going to be there and it's selling, it does motivate a lot of people who maybe are window shopping, say, man, I've always wanted these, and hey, this is going to sell. I need to be out there. I need to be in attendance.
Yeah, and the bid goes on is such a wonderful addition to an auction. It really does let the buyer know that you all are working to get this car to him and that you're willing to help the seller negotiate a fair deal to get there. But the seller knows that he's not just getting that 2 minutes or 3 minutes on the block. He's getting the whole after effect. And as you said, it goes on after the auction is closed. People have 24 hours to pick a car up afterwards, most times. And that goes on. And sometimes that hammer is dropping on that car through the bid goes on 24 hours after the auction.
Yeah, and I certainly understand. I mean, it's I could see how people would think that oh, it's over when the gavel doesn't fall and the vehicle's on the block.
Right.
And I get that, just because obviously it's very exciting when a vehicle does sell there. But as you identify, I mean, there's a whole list of reasons why people who would still want that car would be after it. I've had friends who had travel logistics who couldn't be in the room and they couldn't be on a phone, but they still wanted that vehicle.
Right.
And so they chased it down and we call it BGO, bid goes on, but BGO stays very busy just because there's so much foot traffic. People are walking around and, the other group of individuals, guys, that I think surfaces are people that maybe they wanted a different vehicle that did go above what they're willing to pay. And then they start looking at some other options and they do look at the bid goes on. They say, hey, I couldn't get this car or this truck, but hey, I want to go after this one. And then, deals come together all the time.
Right, because there might be several of one type of car there, and
absolutely.
maybe you just wanted to bid on that first one, but it wasn't, too many people like you did, so maybe I can settle for this girl down the road.
Yeah, well, jump on Mecum.com and looking at the bid goes on like you do on the old Facebook marketplace, right?
Yeah.
So I do have a question about, we were talking about the generational changes, and we've talked several shows in a row now about the shift in, the auto, the classic car market and who's actually entering the classic car market. And we're starting to see a lot of Gen Z enter this classic car market. My son-in-law, I asked him a couple of weeks ago what his, top three would be. And his, he still had some, like a 76 Trans Am was, one of them. But, some of the newer, like JDMs are very popular with Gen Zs and stuff like that. So like you were talking about before, you're always going to have the forever classics, but now that view of vehicles is really starting to change now. Are you seeing that? You're most of all these auctions. So how are you seeing it from your seat?
100%, guys. We continue to see demand shift and evolve. And, going back to that phrase that you mentioned, those forever classics, that's what I tell people too, is that, your Tri-5 Chevys, your 69 Camaros, your muscle car, stuff like that.
Going to be forever.
That will remain, that will have that desire transcends firsthand connection. Because, that's what we see a lot of collecting is driven by, is firsthand experience. But what we find is that for people who don't have that firsthand experience with those cars of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80s in some case, those cars do transcend almost place and time, and they remain forever collectible. But what we're also seeing grow in increasingly larger numbers are the cars that people do have firsthand accounts or experiences with, and they're chasing them back from their youth. So these are the cars of the 80s, the 90s, and even 2000s. So we're seeing a big uptick in Fox bodies. Yeah, guys, they're going through the roof now in terms of people wanting collector grade examples of Fox bodied Mustangs.
Wow, they were big when I was in high school.
I mean, Honda S2000s. If you have a clean, if you have a clean example of an S2000 unmodified, I mean, like, hold on to that, because again, it's the nature of collecting is remaining the same. It's car enthusiasts that typically are wanting to chase after a car or a truck or a motorcycle that they had or they lusted after when they were younger. And as they get to a point in life where they start to have the funds, the discretionary funds, to go after it, they want the cars that they can really relate to. Yeah. And that's where I think it's exciting to see kind of this new era of collector cars come into the space.
I love it, actually. I love the fresh blood. I love the different perspective now. Instead of, everybody's chasing after the same Chevelle, everybody's chasing after the same Corvette. Now the S2000, I remember those, the Fox body Mustangs, those were huge when I was in high school. So that I love seeing that interject. My
daughter's boyfriend of 3 years is 18, it'll be 19 this year. And Matt, he said that his top three would be a 2009 C6 Corvette ZL1, ZR1, right? His second one would be an 84 C10, and his third one would be a 2014 Nissan GTR R35. I mean, he's just all across the board.
Yeah.
I love that he's so diversified on it. Tell me what you think. If the big three didn't start going back in time, thinking about classic styling on these new 1,000 horsepower cars, would we be talking 200 plus million in sales? I wonder what the market would be like if the big three hadn't reemerged in the 2000s with all the new ideas and this new horsepower.
Yeah, I think certainly there's been a lot of excitement driven by Dodge. Dodge has always kind of kept a foot on the gas in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
They've had an incredible run with the previous gen Charger and Challenger in terms of driving excitement. I mean, guys, you talk about younger generations. I'm amazed at how many people know a Hellcat, or they know, people who couldn't tell you the difference between a Mustang and Camaro, but they know Hellcat means something cool. Yeah. And they know it's something interesting.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, guys, because I've been driving a Durango Hellcat as one of our promotional cars around the country. And wherever I go, whenever people see that growling cat, again, they may not know all the details of the package, but they can recognize that mark and they know it's something special. And now this is on a Durango. So imagine the last 10 years or however many years we've had of Charger Challenger Hellcats to build on that. And Dodge has done a phenomenal job of marketing, having the product placement in some of the major film franchises like Fast and Furious and whatnot. But they have really supported the car enthusiasts. Now, also by that same token, Ford has also done a lot. That new S650 Mustang platform with the Dark Horse being an entirely new performance variant has also injected a lot of excitement and a lot of renewed interest. It's not a name from the past. I mean, this is something brand new that now younger generations can connect and identify. Man, a Dark Horse. That's cool. That's
I haven't heard of those.
Wow.
I haven't heard of those. I'm a Mopar guy. Kenny's a Chevy guy.
I did though just last night.
Say I'm the Ford guy in the house.
Yeah, I think Bryce, you talked about those Mustangs not too long ago, right?
The Dark
same
Horse
ones?
is great. The Mustang GT3s and GTDs are really just mind-blowing, almost
cool.
supercar level.
Well, last night I saw a new Mustang, and it had a Mach 1 logo below the fender, and I'm like, they're bringing back a Mach 1 package. I mean, this is really... new is old and old is new.
Yeah.
I really was blown away by that.
I just hope they're not doing it in name only. Because, you talk about how Dodge has always been very exciting, but they had to roll back all their EVs that they were going to release in 25. And they're like, because it makes such, negative publicity. And Stellantis really dropped the ball, in my opinion, on that. But
yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting to kind of see with each passing month how Dodge is working to connect with their enthusiast base. And I think they do have a clear path forward now, just in terms of how they want to offer this new Charger. I personally like the looks. I think they are retro inspired. I think the hatchback is a welcome body style that we haven't seen a lot of, that I think will be popular with enthusiasts. Let me circle back also to something that Bryce mentioned, going back to Ford. GTD, I mean, that's a mind-blowing concept where now we have a Mustang performance variant spectrum that is just insane, where you have entry-level V6s all the way up to this top-tier GTD, vehicle that's setting records at tracks around the country. So I will say, in terms of all this performance that's coming out of Detroit and what you can find in showrooms, it certainly does contribute to the collector space, right? Because in addition to seeing all of the traditional classic cars or collector cars, cars that have been in garages or storage facilities or in barns, whatever. We also continue to see, guys, vehicles from the showroom make their way to us because it also speaks to desirability. I mean, I think back over the last couple of years, some of the key players, Corvette C8, when you couldn't touch one of those, remember how long people were waiting to get their hands on because of how radical of a model. Where you could find them is you could find them on the Mecum red carpet, because basically people were understanding that, hey, it doesn't just have to be a classic car that people are seeking after when they want some excitement in their driving preference. Bronco. Think about when the Bronco came back a couple years ago, guys. Same thing. You couldn't touch those. You couldn't find them anywhere.
No.
But where they were showing up was at a Mecum auction. Because again, so a collector car is a very wide definition.
Yeah.
It's not just something with fins and chrome. It certainly does include that, but it also includes the very latest showroom offerings.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, we use the term American car classics, and you know, the classic you automatically think old. But I almost disagree with that now. I mean, I think modern, like for example, the Demon 170s, or that's what they are, right? You guys had like 4 in a row go across the blocks for over $100,000 each.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that's not a classic.
Right.
You know, they're a year old, but that's going to be a classic. Like you said, Hellcat, they're going to know that for generations.
But we saw a 22 C8 first year come through and brought $130,000. And I flipped my phone up and I looked on Marketplace real quick just to see if some were for sale. And there were some in the 80s and 90s. And so I wonder, you know, is it the vibe of the auction that gets people to buy that car? But here again, it's you get to see what you've got and you know that it's at the auction being represented properly. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I would also agree, too, that the term classic, as you mentioned, I would challenge people to rethink what that defines.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, most people hear classic, and again, they think American Graffiti, chrome, you know, the pastel colors. And it certainly does, guys. A 57 Bel Air, classic all day long.
Yeah.
64 Mustang, classic all day long. Yeah. But it's also one of those of looking out. Hellcat, it's going to be a classic, you know, so you could kind of say future classic. And I understand people see those and they think of them as new cars, and not just to dial in on Hellcat, but there's a whole spectrum. Look at modern exotics. You know, that's something else that we continue to see a rise in at auction. You know, just the latest from Ferrari, Lamborghini, other makes, McLaren. You know, just stuff like that. So, you know, I think collector cars, it's driven primarily by enthusiasm. It doesn't matter if a vehicle was in a showroom decades ago or you can find it now. If it's got people excited, you're going to see it at auction. Yeah.
One of the things that Chris and I came across at Mecum in Kissimmee, which what a wonderful show. I just got to say it again. What a wonderful show, was a Tron bike. Did you happen to catch that Tron bike? Now,
I did.
It sold for good money, but we saw some sick bikes there. What do you call them? Cholos and stuff. They were all choloed out.
Choloed out Harleys. So
it was a variety of man, the labor of love has gone into this, and this is just a stock bike, but it's beautiful. But then the Tron bike was just out of this world, different as a concept to watch and see. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, Matt. You did Vegas bikes. You go to Vegas twice a year. One is a car auction, one's dedicated to motorcycles, and the one right after Mecum, you went right out to Las Vegas, Nevada, and you had a motorcycle auction. I think you had some news coming out of there. I have not told Chris. So tell us how that auction.
I love motorcycles, and I'm from Vegas.
Right. So tell him how his town did.
Okay. Well, before I get into that, so what kind of motorcycles? Give me some background. What gets you excited when it comes to two wheels?
I'm a Harley guy. Yeah, I mean, I like the older ones though. Yeah, there was a Honda out here. You had a customer that had a Honda or whatever it was. Yep. It was really cool. But yeah, I'm a Harley guy. I was raised as a Harley guy. My dad had Harleys and all that kind of stuff. So, but I like.
Okay, all right.
I have an eclectic taste of everything.
I'm an Indian guy. I
like the Indians. Yeah. I like the older ones more than the new ones. But
I like the new Indians. Yeah.
Well, guys, I can tell you, man. I've been talking about. But I mean, Mecum Vegas motorcycles, insane. We were coming off of the high there. We were just there a couple of days ago. Big news. The first $1 million motorcycle was at auction, was sold there for over $1.2 million.
Whoa.
It was a 1915 Cyclone. An incredible story. Of how that bike came to be. And so we're very excited. We're very proud to be the first to, again, eclipse that mark for motorcycles at auction. But there was over, I think, 2,000 motorcycles there, guys.
Wow.
And just like Mecum Kissimmee, there was something there for everyone from, you know, I was talking with some of our customers about how everything from the smallest little two wheels, you know, the Honda, the Monkeys and the ZR70s and the Groms and all that, all the way up to the big Harleys and Indians, to race bikes, sport bikes, to customs. Guys, we had some incredible customs across the block. We're seeing younger talent, new builders enter the scene that are wanting to leave their mark on custom motorcycles, and it's very exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, speaking of customs, I immediately think of OCC, and they build a lot of bikes for charities. They get their old show is a lot of requests from companies that would come in and hire them to build a bike that they were going to auction off. Matt, I spoke to you real briefly the other day about how much Mecum does for charities, and one of the big ones was children's cancer. And it blows me away that the Rick Hendrickses and these guys that step up and they put big money out there for these charities. And a lot of times we saw things that you don't even get to own it. You're donating here as something that's going to go towards something for the rest of the year. Let's try to go to each lot and get this raised up and done and stuff. But how unselfish of Mecum Auctions, the family, Frank and Dana and everybody, to allow this to happen, to come in, not just allow it, but to help it and take the time off the floor. A car will go through the block in 2 minutes. You could spend 5 or 10 minutes on an auction piece that's going to go for charity, and it's like time stops. They don't care anymore about hustling and getting these 4,500 cars through. Let's just talk about this one right now, and it means something special to the spectator who's watching that. I'll tell you right now, it just warms our hearts to see what the family at Mecum does for everybody like that. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, guys, we've been so excited to be working with Curing Kids Cancer now, and Grania Owens and her team for many years. And I know it means a lot to them and it means a lot to us. And there's a lot of good work being done by her team. I encourage people to check out their website. They're based in Dallas, and I know they're making some good headway about helping to come up with some good preventive measures and help some kids in need. And actually, speaking of SEMA, working there, area was a mother and her daughter, a mother and her son who had beaten cancer. And he was a cancer survivor, telling people about Curing Kids Cancer. I was so touched and challenged, didn't slow him down. So just really incredible. And I will say, guys, just before I forget, I did pull it up. So that 1915 Cyclone final sale price was $1.32 million. For that incredibly rare and incredibly expensive motorcycle.
Now that motorcycle, Matt, you said. Yeah, that motorcycle you said, Matt, came with one heck of a story. Real quickly, the story behind a car, when you get the story. Now, I know that people would clamor to buy a Mario Andretti or an AJ Foyt car or a Bobby Unser or something off a bigger a Paul Newman car. Mecum had that. But when the story is documented and it's there on something that's 100 years old or what, I mean, it really helps the sale. It really gets the blood drawing and the heart rate up, and you want to own a piece of history at that point.
Absolutely. And that we refer to that as provenance, any kind of documentation or historical nature that accompanies a piece, whether it be a piece of road art, that's also a huge part of our business, is all the additional memorabilia that goes with these cars and trucks. Again, road art, neon signs, slot machines, coin op stuff, from that to motorcycles to the vehicles. Anything that goes with it that tells that piece's story, it typically will add value. And that's also typically where you might have two items or two vehicles, and they have maybe different prices. A lot of it can, and maybe similar quality of restorations or conditions. But it really comes back to, is there more to it? And a lot of people, they enjoy buying the story. And speaking to this Cyclone, this provenance is its capabilities. It was one of the first motorcycles to go over 100 miles per hour. So that's also going to be sought out. It was a benchmark, vehicle. And so it's just, collectors always are looking for different things, and you never know exactly what speaks to them.
Are you, Matt, are you a guy that would look for something modified, or are you a guy that would look for something stock?
It's a good question. It depends on the day, guys. It depends on the day. I mean, I think in general, I am kind of I'm a stock preference guy. They say it's only original ones, which is very true.
Oh yeah.
And there's something also I think a lot of that has to do with my work as a journalist, in seeking out how particular vehicles were in their original condition. That's kind of what I go to, but I can certainly recommend high-end customs, especially when there's a lot of thought and craftsmanship into it, which we see, guys, with the customs, whether it be the motorcycles or the cars or trucks. I can appreciate that. I can appreciate what goes into it.
Sure.
As a former tech myself, I didn't do custom work, but I'm just saying, understanding what goes into working with your hands, these cars and trucks and motorcycles that we love so much. When I see high-end work done, I can respect that all day long.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and we see the amount of work that goes into stuff. We're troubled by a few that we saw that all this work and all this money went into the builds, and then there's something silly that you almost wonder, man, we're just rushing to get it there on time. Let people see. Talking about that red truck. So we're it's never a dull moment when you're at an auction, but when you get to one the size of Mecum Kissimmee, Matt, it's just daunting, the amount of stuff and the spectators. How do you know anything about the Mecum numbers on spectators this year? Your weather was beautiful. I've got to imagine that the spectator numbers had to be just banging.
Yeah, so guys, we had nearly 9,000 registered bidders. We had 8,900 SEMA, and we had more than 120 attendants over the course of the auction.
Wow.
So, I mean, just incredible amount of people coming out to enjoy the experience. And, I think you guys touched on this earlier, is that it's way more than an auction. It's a family affair. It's entertainment of a level that I think very few people experience in person, and you really have to come out to see it. Even if you're not buying or selling, come out. Day passes, you can bring the family, kids get in free. It's a great way to see things, and I think everyone has a story. Everyone has a story with these cars and trucks. Even if you think you're not a car, you come out to Mecum Kissimmee and you see over 4,000 vehicles, you're going to connect one of them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing you're going to connect with more of them, and that's what I love seeing, watching groups of people walk up and down the aisles, point things out. Tom drove one, and that's what's really exciting to see, that these memories that these vehicles bring about.
Yeah, Chris and I, here again, he's a numbers guy. Yeah, he's a numbers guy, and we started talking about percentages of how many cars were there. Chris came up with a number. He thought maybe 40% of the cars there were Corvettes and Mustangs. Now, I'll say that there were a lot more older Corvettes than there were older Mustangs, and there were a lot more newer Mustangs than there were newer Corvettes. But those two cars... And it really seemed, there are a lot of Dodges, but it really seemed like those two
dominated the field.
Really just dominated the field. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, guys, Corvette has been, one of the highest in terms of volume vehicles on site at every collector car auction that we hold.
Okay.
That remains a favorite for many enthusiasts. I mean, with such an incredible legacy, especially with all that the 8th generation has done. Now we're several years into the 8th generation. I keep thinking that's the new kid on the block. I think we're 3 or 4 model years.
4 years in almost, yeah.
Generation. Are we 4 years? Okay.
Yeah, 20.
Yeah, 4 years. But it's just incredible. But I mean, that's America's sports car. People, even people who don't know anything about collector cars are going to want to seek out a Corvette. It's just something about that. Ever since 1953, that first model year, it's been a car that's all about excitement, and coming from Chevrolet, apple pie, baseball, Corvettes, let's go. But we see a lot of Mustangs out. Obviously that's a close second in terms of volume. Just another iconic model from the big three coming from Detroit. And I will say, I'm a Camaro guy. I will say it pains me to see kind of an uncertain future for the Camaro. But obviously, 67 through 69 first-gen Camaros, always perennial favorites, whether it be in stock or custom, resto mod. We see it all, and I'm here for it. So
I got a lot of hope for the 80s Camaros. I think those are going to start.
1970 split bumper. That's the one for me. The 1970 split bumper with that big, massive grill just open its mouth and eat you up. Love them. Yeah. Love them.
I'm an 80s Camaro guy. I like the 80s Camaro.
Sure.
Well, 60s, 70s, and 80s. There's one for everybody.
Yeah.
Third gen is slowly on the rise, I will say, just because, that era, very little excitement was coming out of Detroit.
Facts.
But, guys, it really speaks to the fact that even though there's not monster horsepower numbers from those years, people still have memories with those cars.
Yep.
And sometimes it's the charm of the, the lower horsepower figures, or even the digital dash, guys, I'm sure that we can all relate to. I'm saying just the quirky nature that now, as we look back, is very retro cool. Again, the pixelated dash, the pixelated radio, that speaks to an era. So even though those cars weren't delivering monster horsepower performance figures, it doesn't matter, because collecting is not driven purely by that. There's a lot of people that want the biggest, the baddest, of course. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that say, hey, man, I had one of those cars in high school, and I would pay anything to get one back just to relive those memories. It sounds like you might be one of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And me personally, like, I would love a third-gen Camaro with a stock interior and an LS inside the hood.
Oh, an LS. You'd want to go modern.
Absolutely. But why not?
We're seeing some of these 92 IROCs. I've seen them go for $42,000 already, Matt. That's not small money for an old IROC.
No, I mean, and typically for the longest time, one of the standout collectors was the pace car, right?
Yeah.
The from '82, blue and silver, very, very distinct. And because of that, provenance or notoriety of being there at Indy, that was one of the main ones. But you're exactly, just because there wasn't a lot of other special editions or tuner versions during those years, like there was in the fourth gen, when we saw all kinds of stuff being happening during those years. Right. But when it comes to the third gen, though, you're exactly right. It's those super clean IROCs. And those are the ones that are making bigger and bigger dollars, and a lot of people can't understand, because that I think the horsepower with, I think for a lot of those years, maybe 185 performance figures, but it speaks to the era. Yeah, it speaks to the era, and that's going to command value and interest.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. Well, I want to go somewhere, Matt. We're gonna close a little bit. Tell me, you and Bree, you're doing some Mecum in the mornings now. You've got a show going on that goes every morning of the auction. This has taken off big. I watched several episodes during Mecum. Your role has expanded with Mecum. When I met you 4 years ago, I think you did a photo shoot with us, and you were running around with a camera, and now that camera's in front of you, pointed at you. Tell me about your roles at Mecum and what you see for yourself coming in this year. Big smile, and I love it. You deserve it. Yeah. So,
well, I'll be honest with you, Kenny. To be honest, I had forgotten about that interaction, but it came back as soon. I'm saying, but you're exactly right. That's how our paths crossed. Man, has it been 4 years?
4, yeah.
And wow, no,
I know.
And no, that's good. I mean, but no, guys, we did have some sad news during the course of the auction with the news that our colleague, and I think more importantly, our friend John had passed away. I'll say it caught me off guard. He had not been doing well, since early fall. He was having some health issues. He had been out from a couple auctions, and he's recovering. He was seeking out some medical attention. And so I will say, I knew that he needed to rest up and recuperate. And again, he had some planned surgeries and whatnot planned. And so I kind of thought, that he'd be rebounding and that I'd be seeing him sooner than later. And then when I got the news, it hit us all hard, guys. And, for those who might be unaware, obviously John was our TV commentator, providing just so much insight, but it really goes beyond that. A lot of people speak to his knowledge. It wasn't just the knowledge, because I think we all know, people who know a lot about cars. But what John brought was he brought a passion to communicate clearly and to help you understand, no matter where you are at with your knowledge of cars. He had such an ability to connect with people across that spectrum, whether it be people who are just new to the collecting space and didn't know the difference between a V6 and a V8, or seasoned experts that could talk at hours at length about some of the nuance. John just had a way to speak to everyone and to meet them where they were at. And he always spoke with passion. And, guys, I spoke about this in my tribute to John as part of our morning show, which I'll touch on in a minute. But, that's the thing that John imparted to me, is that as my role continues to expand, being kind of an ambassador for this love of collecting in these cars and the Mecum auction experience, is to not just be an expert, but to speak with passion and authority, and really to help communicate that enthusiasm and to help bring in more people to understand why we love these cars and the auction experience so much. So John will be missed. He was a good friend of me and my wife. We knew him and his wife very well. And so he big hole in the space, guys, the legacy he left behind.
Yeah.
So, and how that relates to even moving forward, I will say, John and I, we did the On the Move podcast, over 100 episodes. We did that primarily, we kicked that off during COVID, and it served as a primary way for the Mecum Auctions team to connect with our audience and fan base, just as we didn't take much time off, but I'm saying just because we were quickly back to live events during those years.
Yeah.
But I will say the podcast helped to kind of be the tip of the spear outside of our television broadcasts, with helping to kind of bring in a new era of digital communications. And so even what I'm doing now with this new Mecum in the Morning that I'm co-hosting with Breon Poland, our director of marketing, I say all the time that I think what John and I did helped to kind of pave the way. So I also owe that to John. What Mecum in the Morning is, you summed it up well, Kenny, is that it's kind of the pregame for the auction.
Yeah.
It's a live multi-cam studio type show set up at auction. We kick off right before road art, typically in that 8:30 to 9 o'clock window before road art starts crossing the block. And Breon and I have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun. We basically kind of get people up to speed with what's in store for the auction experience. And so people can find it across all of Mecum social. It's on the Mecum's YouTube channel and the Facebook. It's a great way to kind of, again, get up to speed with what's in store for that day of the auction.
Yeah, I think that you summed it up with John. It wasn't what he said. It was how he presented it, his passion for the love of this industry, for the people that saw it like he did, the worthiness to look after this car, to take care of it like a child or a pet or anything else in your family. It was just that important. I knew John from interviews. I've met him for 1 or 2 weeks during the year. We would talk on and off, mostly through text throughout the year. When I learned about this, it devastated me. I mean, it took me back to losing my dad 5 years ago. And I give the testimony to John for my loving him the way I did and do was because of the way he presented everything. He didn't slough off something that wasn't cool to him or whatever. Every one single automobile that he spoke about was a passionate car to him, and I loved it for him. I don't think he was a big truck guy, but he would talk about them as if he had ridden in them his whole life. And man, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss it like so many people. So we were blessed to have him, and we appreciate God and all His glory for giving us John like He did, and for somebody at Mecum recognizing John to say, hey, I think we need to relocate your job to a little better spot 17 years ago. So super cool of them to do that as well and to see it. And for you, Matt, I know that meeting you like I have and getting to know you and everything else, that I'm just going to watch, and like so many other people are going to watch you grow with this company. And I just can't wait to continue to talk to you throughout the years and years of experience that you're going to gain and have, but that you get to share with our fans and your fans as well, and everything that you get to bring through the vision of the family of Mecum Auctions. So I love it. I love it. I know you're getting ready for...
Well said, Kenny.
Yeah. I know you're getting ready for a flight.
Well said.
You are in O'Hare Airport. Is that right?
Correct. Yep. Here at ORD, getting ready to head south for some car events, and always on the move. That's one of the other shows that I'm responsible for is On the Move with Matt Avery. And so producing all kinds of content, really enjoying being out both at auction and both around the country telling automotive stories, guys. I love it. And a lot of that passion I was able to draw from John. So I'll definitely miss him, but he'll stay with me in my work and in the years ahead.
And I know that he will. And I know he will. I love it so much, Matt. Thank you for letting him carry on through you and do all this. The next generations, as we call it, we get to watch and learn and grow and love even more. Thank you for taking your time to join us today. I'm glad that we got to hear about the Vegas bike draw.
Awesome.
I know that it was going to be big, but I had no idea you were going to come out with news of a $1.3+ million motorcycle. And here again, the story behind it. I want to follow up on the Providence and love it all.
Absolutely.
Have a safe flight, a safe trip. Have a rest of the safe winter. I know that the groundhog didn't see a shadow, so we're looking at 6 more weeks of winter, which I know you can't be a fan of. We're back into shorts and t-shirts, so we're doing all right again.
I was riding my motorcycle today. So.
Yeah. So
Oh man.
yeah, keep in touch with us and keep us posted with everything that goes on with you and with Mecum Auctions, okay?
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.